What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Roar Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Gordon Porritt, and I'm here with.
Mackenzie.
Hey, I'm Abbie.
Hey, I'm Jake.
I'm other Jake.
Today, we're talking about sports marketing and news media crisis communication. We're here with our guest, Trinity Brown. She's a gymnast here at Clemson. So, Trinity, can you just tell me a little bit about your journey to Clemson as a collegiate gymnast?
Yeah, so I started gymnastics at the age of 3. I'm also from Maryland, by the way. So started gymnastics at the age of 3. I started competing in my first like competitions around age 6. And from age 6 to about 17 or 18, I pretty much just did gymnastics my entire life. I've never done any other sport. And I think I knew I wanted to do gymnastics just because how like dedicated I was to like keep going even through like hardships and like mental blocks and things like that. So I did gymnastics at a gym in Prince George's County up until I was about 12. Then I changed to another gym. And I didn't feel like that was the fit for me because I knew at the end of the day that I was wanting to get a college scholarship to a university. And so then I moved to another gym closer to Annapolis, where the coaches were really like focused on getting the girls like in contact with university coaches and just like understanding how the entire NCAA system works with recruiting and all of that. I ended up getting about 7 offers for full scholarships around the country, but I think my biggest like point of going to a school was not so much like the name of the school, but just like what the coaches as people had to offer. Just because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're gonna be able to do gymnastics or whatever sport you do. But at the end of the day, like, are you still getting a good education? Like, are the coaches treating you with the respect that you deserve and not just looking at you as like another number or just money that we spend on you because like you need to contribute? So I actually ended up going to Utah State for my freshman year, super far away from home. I was really wanting to go to California just to get away from home and like see what life was like on the other side of the country. And it was very different to say the least. Like, definitely not what I was expecting. It was cool to have a different view of things, but I can't say that I would ever live there. So I competed my freshman year there. We were able to make history and win our conference title. So we got rings and all of that stuff. And then at the end of my freshman year, around May, my coaches were like, "Oh, like we're gonna go start a team at Clemson." And I was like, "What is Clemson?" Because they didn't have gymnastics at the time, and I was only looking at schools like with gymnastics. And so I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not leaving Utah State. Like, I came here, I risked like going all the way across the country, different time zone, for my parents and everyone that I feel like supports me. And so I was very against the idea of just like coming to a school that didn't already have a program and nothing was established yet, just because there's so many risks and things that like you just don't know are going to happen until you're like in the midst of the program. So then I really thought about it and I realized that being in Utah for my 4 years, like nothing, it wasn't really serving me. I didn't really like being there. I'm not an outside girl. I hate hiking. And that just seemed like that was like the only thing to do. And I just wasn't really like content. So I ended up entering the transfer portal, which is this, I guess it's like a website within the NCAA where you can only enter it if you're planning on like moving to different schools so that it gives coaches and people like the ability to like talk to you. Outside of that, it's like a violation. So I entered the portal the day before it closed. And I was like, well, we'll see from here where I go. I had kind of like counted Clemson out. So I had gotten some other offers from like Pitt and NC State and BYU, which is also in Utah. So it was also a big no. But I ended up, my coaches actually started the team at Clemson from Utah State. So they called me like the next couple of days and they offered me a full scholarship. And I didn't take it yet because I didn't know like if I wanted to come here yet. I hadn't seen the school, so I came on an official visit. I loved it. I fell in love with it. And my entire family has gone to school in South Carolina, so I committed on my visit, and now I'm here.
Awesome. That's a great story.
Thank you.
So, being as a college athlete, does that change like your sports media view? Like now that you're on stage being televised, does that change the way that media's influenced college athlete and college athletics?
I would say that it brings on a lot of added pressure, more than just like the pressure that you're placing on yourself to like, be successful, but also you're having to balance kind of what the media is thinking of you, what people are saying about you, and then their opinions. And you either filter out like what you need from it, like the good, and just ignore the bad, or you can allow it to kind of like be a detriment to you and cause you to not do well at meets and stuff just because you're trying to please other people who don't half the time they don't know what they're talking about or have any experience within the sport. But I also think on the other hand that it's a really good opportunity to like publicize yourself, especially if you're into like social media. I'm not super into social media, like the whole verified thing on Instagram. Like, I don't know, I could care less, but it's an opportunity for people to see you and also for kids to be inspired and just like for them to have someone to look up to as like a role model in terms of like sports and just not giving up when things get hard because you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so since one of our topics today is sports marketing, we were kind of talking about like how social media impacts you personally with being a gymnast. So I was wondering, how has running like your own personal social media page on Instagram impacted your gymnastics career?
I feel like we always talk about how, this is a free country and freedom of speech and stuff and social media and stuff, but you always kind of have to have a filter on your social media, especially when you're looking for things like outside of sports, like even like jobs and stuff, because certain people just don't want to be able to like represent or for you to be an ambassador of their company if you're posting like explicit content or just content that just doesn't align with their like views and principles and values. So the same thing kind of aligns with sports and it differs among programs. But I know that the way that I kind of use my social media is very censored. And just like I'm very strategic with what I post because I know that I have a lot of people, mainly kids, looking up to me and just watching what I'm posting. And not only do like I don't want to look bad, but I also don't want to set a bad example. And also for people to be able to paint a picture of me that's not necessarily true. So I just feel like yes, like I can post what I want. Like it is like my autonomy to do what I want because it is my social media. But just because I'm under such like a microscope, I feel like I'm just always being watched and judged and stuff. I feel like I kind of owe it to myself and my like reputation to be strategic with what I post so that it like influences me and kind of helps me grow.
Yeah, for sure. Does like Clemson Athletics, do they have any input in like what you post? Do they like tell you
Coaches
certain
do
things to
like
post?
personally, like within the gymnastics program, there's just certain things like we aren't allowed to post.
Yeah.
And just like, I mean, obviously you don't want a picture with like your body all out, even though we do a sport where like your body is like the main, focus. But I think it's just more of protection, in a way, just in terms of like even with jobs and like future things that are going on. I feel like my program at least is very hands-on with what we're posting or not posting or like reposting and stuff like that.
I've also seen that like at every single gymnastics meet, you guys have been sold out, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, how do you think the marketing for gymnastics on like gymnastics social pages or on the gymnast like own personal pages, like, do you think that's had an impact on like how popular gymnastics has been here?
I definitely think it's had a huge impact. I think Clemson did a really, really good job marketing the fact that gymnastics was gonna be an oncoming sport to Clemson, and they really put their all into trying to kind of like bring awareness about it and educate people about it. And also just like in the entire state of South Carolina, we're the only ones with a gymnastics team or the only university with a gymnastics team. And so like I think that stands out to people just because like gymnastics is a sport in the Olympics that everyone like seems to kind of like gravitate to. But within South Carolina, like parents who have children, girls and boys, like gymnastics isn't necessarily like really an option for them just because it's like not within like their proximity of where they live. And so I think that when Clemson brought on gymnastics, they really reached like a lot of people who like parents and kids like who were wanting to try like something new. And also just that the fact that it's different from a lot of other sports. I mean, we've had cameras in the gyms, news companies for like the first year that we were doing like the sport was here, like we have been kind of like under a microscope with the cameras and stuff. And while it can be kind of hard, I think it's really good publicity. Um, just because it kind of just shows people that like gymnastics isn't all sparkles and rainbows all the time. Like we work hard, and I'm sure everyone kind of knows that. And like you have to work hard at anything you want to be good at, but just like there's a lot of other things outside of gymnastics within the gymnastics realm that kind of add to like the sport that we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've watched some of the Building Legends show on
Yeah.
Clemson Plus, and that's super cool getting to see like how it all came together and all that stuff. So that's a little plug for everybody to go watch that. It's really
Yes,
good.
please go watch it. It's good.
In terms of like crisis management on social media, do you ever find yourself having to respond to whether negative or positive comments relating to maybe your own personal injuries or your teammates' injuries and people having something to say about it? Like, do you ever find yourself having to speak up on social media platforms to let people know what's going on?
I feel like my first initial response when I'm like reading certain things is like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to tear them up like on social media. But then it's like I have to remember like who I am and my reputation and how other people view me. So it's kind of like, yeah, like while I want to kind of respond back to people, especially if it's a blow at like one of my teammates or close friends or even me, like half the time I don't know who they are. They probably don't do gymnastics. They probably sit on the couch. So it's just like, what is it like? I'm not really gonna get anything out of it except for like self-satisfaction. But then at the end of the day, like that can be taken and like ran with, and that can turn into something that's bigger than it really is. So personally, like I just try to stay away from that. Like I read it and I move on. Like I said, I'm not a super like huge social media person, so I'm not like fishing for comments, like bad comments, because I know that there are some. But yeah, so I just kind of like stay down and observe.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it's pretty brutal with the things that people have to say. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's probably people that are sitting on their couch. Like most of the people that are saying things that are negative on social media have no idea what's going on in the sport. And
right.
it's like, I'm sure it's a lot of pressure too.
Yeah, it is. And same with track too. Like everyone like thinks that they can run. Like everyone thinks that they can run a 200 and sprint. And it's just like, yeah, like while it is like just running, there's technique to it and stuff and like a lot of practice and long-term injuries that come with it. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard out here.
yeah, it is.
Kind of going off that last question and kind of your response about the people sitting on the couch, maybe hating, and then maybe just a crisis occurs that you're not expecting. Are you trained by anyone kind of in the public relation field on how to handle crises or how to respond effectively and not let emotions kind of get to you?
I wouldn't say we have anyone like directly that we can come to. I mean, like there are people like within the NCAA and also at Clemson, like in like the compliance umbrella that are like pay attention to like what people are saying and like think about what you say before you say it. But I personally I really think it comes down to like morals and values and principles and the things that you like deem important. Like at the end of the day, social media is social media. Like the only way that it can harm you is if you allow it to, and if you post things to be, like brought against you. So we're not really trained on it, but it's just like being in this sport for so long and just kind of like watching what other people are saying, like even my teammates or people who've gone to the Olympics that I know, and like what people have to say about them. And it's just like how looking up to them and how they kind of like take on the comments. Like I think I learned most that way, but no, we don't have anyone directly that we can come to, unless it is just like a hate comment or, like racial discrimination or anything like that. So.
Would you be open or wanting for someone to kind of step into that role and help you along the way, or are you fine
Um,
without it?
I don't know. Me personally, not really, because like kind of as my career comes to a close, I'm a senior. I'll be doing my master's degree here next year, with another year of eligibility for gymnastics. But as my career comes to a close, like I'm kind of like looking forward to like my future and the things that like my academics are preparing me for. But I think with like NIL and that whole world becoming like a real thing where people are actually getting paid like salaries or more, I think that could be something that could be important for especially like younger athletes, like regardless of the sport, just because like if you are using NIL as like a means of like financial means, like you need to make sure that you're like whatever you're saying and posting or responding to on social media is like in favor of like what you're getting paid. So yes, I think for people who are within NIL, yes, but me, no.
So I know that you posted on your social media account about your injury. What has it been like responding to the athletic department or your teammates or just fans in general? What is that like for you?
I feel like, well, the re I guess I'll give you guys the background. So, like as Abby said, like the meet that we had, the first home opener, like it was sold out, like 8,600 people there. So, like when I fell and tore my Achilles, I mean 8,600 people saw that. And so like I was getting messages of like, "Oh, what happened? Like was it your ACL? Like did you break a bone? Like all this stuff." And like I was getting like thousands and thousands of messages of like what happened, what happened, what happened. And like I was already like obviously emotionally distraught and just like sad that like now my season's over and I can't really do anything about it. So I was like, I think I'm just gonna make a post. Like I have the platform to do it and just let everyone know like what's going on with me. Not to like seek attention or anything, but just to kind of like reduce some of the, oh, what happened, what happened, what happened, because like that's mentally hard on me as well. Um, a lot of the people that responded were like super supportive, and that's what I love about Clemson so much is that like it really is a family here and people really do care and they care about their athletes, they care about their students, and just like their well-being overall, like emotionally, physically, mentally. And so like I felt like all of the love when I posted it and just and I didn't feel like regretful in posting it or like that it was gonna like kind of come back to bite me. So yeah, I posted it just so that like I could be mentally, intact. Just going through all of this. Like I had to go through surgery and I have to go around school and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Trinity Brown, like, are you okay?" And I'm like, mm-mm. Like it's just hard sometimes. So I think that was the main reason why I posted it. But everyone here has been so supportive and so helpful. And like I just love Clemson for that because it feels like comfortable to be able to like have an injury and like all these people see it. And instead of like, saying like mean things, like everyone was just so supportive and loving.
Do you get the special treatment on the golf carts?
Yes, it's actually so embarrassing to me. Like I'd rather, struggle. Like I don't know, like sitting on the golf cart, everyone's just staring at me and I'm like, "Oh my God, like I look crazy." But yeah, I do.
Hey Trinity, so I've got another question sort of about social media
Mhm.
more in that area. So aside from like the Clemson Gymnastics account posting highlights, pictures, whatever from meets or whatever, have you guys tried to do something more fan interactive, like to get people talking more about Clemson Gymnastics more on campus?
Actually, I don't think so. And I think that a lot of like students like at Clemson just hear through the grapevine that like, oh, gymnastics is here or like through like social media accounts, but I don't think there has been a time where like our media team has tried to reach out to like students personally to like get their thoughts and like market about gymnastics, which I think is something that's coming in the future just to try to get like more advertisement out. Because I'm sure you guys like have a lot of thoughts and opinions on it, just like based off of what I've heard and stuff from other students and like my friends, my classmates. So yeah, no, we don't have anyone like reaching out to the student body like as a whole, um, regarding gymnastics.
I've got another question. This is kind of unrelated to what I just asked, but you talked about it in your intro. I kind of am interested in your perspective of the transfer portal. Like everyone's always talking about the transfer portal from like a football, basketball perspective and how it's gotten out of control. I'm just interested from an athlete's perspective, like what that whole process was like for you.
For me, I feel like unfortunately the transfer portal was the most depressing time I have ever been through in my entire life. Just because it's like you have your teammates that are there at the school that you're at, that you started at. And some people transfer multiple times. So at the school they're currently at. And when you enter the transfer portal, it's kind of like you're jumping into something that like you just don't know the outcome. And it's just like you can either get picked up by a school and they're willing to offer you money and they have the money to be able to like fund you academically and athletically, or they don't have it and you don't get picked up and kind of like you have to try to like look around and see where you could possibly go to finish out the rest of your career or don't finish your career like in that sport. And then also just dealing with like the emotions and like supportiveness or unsupportiveness of like the teammates that you currently have. I went through a terrible time with that. Like my teammates were just a few of them just were not supportive of like my decision to enter the transfer portal and kind of just like I got just comments of like, oh, like where are you gonna go? Like what other options do you have? Like are like is this a good option for you? Like or no school's gonna pick you up. And just like when I did share with them like, oh, like so and so called and offered me a scholarship, it was never like supportiveness. It was always like it kind of felt like a competition of like who could go somewhere first or who could commit first. And so like yeah, like while it is cool that like athletes have like all these opportunities that I think people just kind of like say they're like, oh, like student athletes like get to have this, 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 and this. But it's just like no one understands like how hard we work behind the scenes to try to like make the most of our college experience on top of doing school and on top of having a social life and all of that stuff. And so, and then just like your teammates and coaches. So I think that the transfer portal is it's a good opportunity if you make it one, but it can also be super brutal and just like grueling, I would say.
I saw like a bunch of you guys from Utah State like transferred together, right? Was that like a planned thing or was that just pure coincidence?
Oh, it was so coincidental. Like I think that like the people that did enter, most of them were like in my class. So all of the girls minus one or minus two of them are all like we're all seniors. So like once we finished our freshman year, um, everyone was like, okay, like bye. Like I hope I see you again. Might not ever see you again, you know? And then like we had an official visit and all six of us just show up and we're like, oh my God. So no, it wasn't planned at all. Um, but again, like I think that sort of like comes down to like what you're looking for in a school and like the coaches and stuff. And so, like, while Utah State wasn't like a big name school, it was like the coaches that stood out and actually cared about us as student athletes and not just like, okay, here, like, you're just another number. So,
I'm gonna jump to more NIL deal stuff. But how has that impacted your gymnastics, your social life in general? Like, what is it like to market your NIL deals on social media? And like, have you gotten any hate or positive feedback from it?
I feel like NIL, like it was introduced to like a whole bunch of athletes like very prematurely. Like it just there wasn't much information about what was going on and the fact that like, oh, all these companies can now offer you like their products and you can like monetize from it. So like my opinion on it was just that it's like it's kind of like taking a risk because sometimes like you might be taking a deal and that it could be a violation of the NCAA and you could like violate like your scholarship and stuff and lose it. So I think that like NIL, it's cool. I've gotten to do some with Steve Madden, Hey Dude, um, Panoxyl, La Roche-Posay, like stuff like that. But I will say like it's a lot of work. And sometimes at times I felt like I didn't get like the money that I felt like I deserved from having to post and like take all these pictures and promote the product the way that they were asking me to. Um, but I definitely think that it's getting better. There's like certain apps like that you can use like post game. That's what I use. And it offers you certain brands that are open to people who want to like promote their product for them. And it gives you kind of like a rundown, like a contract of like what you have to do in order to earn a certain amount of money. And so like sometimes like you may not necessarily earn any like actual money into your bank account, but like the product that they're giving you is worth like $300, you know? So I just think that I think it's a really cool opportunity in order to make more money outside of like the scholarship or just like outside of like, your sport. But I think that there's like just a lot of like questions about it and things that people don't know about it. And it's like causing a whole bunch of confusion.
You said it's like a lot of work. Does that get in the way of your athletics or your academics?
To personally know, like if I need to let the brand know that like I have an exam coming up or something, like I feel like I'm really good about communicating that with them, and typically they're understanding because, student athlete academics come first, as well as athletics on top of like NIL. But it can get in the way if you kind of like overassign yourself to certain like companies, because like they are asking you to complete an assignment and they want it done like with quality and like the way that they want it to be done in order to like advertise the product. So personally, I try to pick the brands and like make sure that I'm reading and educating myself before like I accept a brand deal or an opportunity to like promote a product, just so that like it doesn't get in the way of like athletics or academics.
Kind of going off that, what's your dream partnership with the brand? What's your dream brand?
Dream brands, I would say Nike. That's a cool opportunity. I know like Mackenzie knows a lot of track people get sponsored by them if they're like pro athletes. So I think that's so cool. And gymnastics, like gymnasts are starting to kind of like finally become more like eligible for Nike to be like sponsors for them. So like if I could have that opportunity, I think that would be so cool.
What kind of would you want to do with Nike?
I would definitely want to promote their leotards. Like they don't have leotards for gymnasts. The only like brand that anybody knows of that like makes leotards for gymnastics is Under Armour and Adidas. So I definitely think like starting from like just like the foundation of gymnastics and like the leotards and stuff like that, that would be super cool because like obviously Clemson is a Nike school. So all of the gear and like shirts and shorts and leggings and all the things that we get are like Nike, Nike sponsored, but there's no like leotards that we wear that are ever Nike. Like they're all like GK Elite, Sylvia P. Like you guys don't necessarily know these brands, but yeah, there's no like mainstream brands making leotards.
That's really interesting that Nike doesn't have leotards. I wonder if like after a couple years of your guys' program, it would like,
It would like
like
form.
draw
Yeah.
some attention. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I think they are like developing something because I had the opportunity to actually go to Nike headquarters last summer with Power, which is like a women's leadership group. And they were like they were like making leotards and like kind of starting to plan for like gymnastics and like for LA 2028. So maybe it'll be in the works. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to get them on that. Maybe you could
I
start.
know. I know. Like I would love to do that.
I do have one last question about like media day and just kind of going through that whole process and also the marketing of like new leotards and like meets coming up. What is that like? And is it fun for you to go to a media day like that?
I think it's super fun to do media day. Well, I'm a girl. I love being a girl. Like you get to do hair, makeup, like all the glitter, like the leotards are pretty, the rhinestones and all of that stuff. Um, so I think like doing that stuff and being able to like do like the shoots and stuff for it and like different poses and like have different backgrounds and like creative things. Like it's super fun because it allows you to show like your personality outside of gymnastics, because I feel like gymnastics is a very like subjective sport, just because like we're under the microscope of like, oh, like there's a certain body type that goes with gymnastics, that comes with gymnastics, and you can like you have to be this size to be able to like swing gymnastics like the girls do in the Olympics. But it's just like it's kind of like people are evolving, and this generation is kind of like speaking out more on the fact that like it doesn't matter what you look like your body weight, your size, like anything. Like if you can do gymnastics, you can do gymnastics, and there's like no other explanation for that. So yeah, I think media day is super special because it shows your personality and like the things that like it shows who you are outside of your sport.
Yeah, it definitely looks fun, I have to say.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
Well, Trinity, thank you so much for coming on. And I learned a lot from this, like just hearing a lot from the athlete's perspective. I'm sure the rest of my group members can say the same thing. It was really cool to hear everything, and just good luck with the rest of the season and everything. And thank you for coming on. Really appreciate
Of
it.
course. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Trinity.
you.
Thank you.
Heal
Bye.
up fast, heal up
Oh,
fast.
I know. 9 more months. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Uh,
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.